It is the dynamic duo, Simply
Yes.
Bree and Alan Newman Jr. I was gonna call you Cocoa Puff Master, but we're
Don't
not.
start. We're not starting that this
Okay,
season.
okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. All right, Alan Newman Jr. And this is He Said What. So we are excited to have you guys here. Of course, we have a special guest joining us. We have some really great topics. If you guys are tuning in through or even listening to this episode through Blue Rain Radio based in New York, we welcome you as well. You are more than invited to tune into one of our live shows, which is every Wednesday from 8 until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We appreciate you guys. Download the app. If you guys are not aware of what Blue Rain Radio is, download the app at Blue Rain Radio, bluerainradio.com. BLUEREIGN radio, RADIO.com. And I mean, what are we waiting for? Let's go ahead and get the show started.
Let's get it.
All right. Well, we are back once again. This is He Said What?
What?
Yes. And I am your girl, Simply Bree.
And I'm your boy, Alan M. Newman Jr. Welcome to the first episode of the new season. Bree, how you doing today?
I am awesome. Shout out to Scooby, aka Rain Diamond, in the chat. I am amazing. I am excited. I have butterflies. There's so much going on right now.
The nerves are all over the place. You know, that month off did a job. So we're gonna see. We're gonna see what we do.
It really did. And for those of you who may have anxiety, listen, we're going to be talking about possibly your favorite topic tonight, which is cannabis. So you definitely do not want to miss out on that discussion. Get your pens ready so that you can write down our guest information. And you can reach out to him and find out more about his business, find out what all he has going on. So I guess, let's just go ahead and bring our guest up. Introducing Mr. Ruben Lindo. Welcome to the show.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome.
Good
Pleasure to have you, Ruben.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you guys tonight.
Yes. How are you feeling tonight?
Well, it's I don't know, what day of the week is it? Wednesday?
That's how
Wednesday. It's hump day.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you, we're going to get into that, right? We're going to get into the section where we talk about being an entrepreneur and corporate America and all that. Listen, there's a reason why I coined myself I'm the Fred Hammond of the cannabis industry, because I'm gonna give the people what they came for. Right?
Oh,
Okay.
Nice. I'm ready. So I guess we can just start. I should have popped some. We should start with our first topic, which is raising children. Are we still a part of the village? Now, my first question to you, Ruben, because I actually have a child. I have a 15-year-old son. When it comes to our youth in this village, how do you feel as far as someone who may not have children speaking on the way parents should discipline their child or children?
So I have 4 children. I have a 21-year-old all the way down to a 5-year-old. So I've had children around me most of my adult life now, right? And the truth of the matter is I always laugh when I have friends that don't have children. And I don't mean this to be sexist, but it's usually the women, friends of mine who don't have children, who are always talking about how they would handle situations with other people's children. And it's like what? Like, I get it. You're an auntie and you can experience it, but it's different when it's your child. Right. And so like people who don't have children who chime in, I always say like unsolicited advice is best kept to yourself. Right. Especially when it comes to matters with children and things like that. it's easy to get offended nowadays. I mean, we have turned into a society of take offense instead of give grace, right? We've turned in. So, with that note, that's also a PSA. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Because look, when you stay in your lane, it's easy to stay true to who you are.
Exactly.
Out of your lane, you're gonna get run over, right?
Because you don't mess with no mama bear or papa bear. That's the last thing you want. You don't want that smoke.
For real, never.
I agree.
And then it's interesting with him saying about we live in a world of offense, but we also live in a society where stay in your lane. Because literally, the same people who will say stay in your lane are the same ones that will jump in somebody else's lane to give them unsolicited advice. And as soon as you look at it like, I don't want to hear that, it becomes a whole issue and a whole dynamic that becomes a problem. So Ruben, pigging off of the fact about, because I don't have kids, so I definitely try not to be a part of any conversations with people with children on what they need to do with their child, because I don't know. All I know is them little things are expensive, and I'm good right now. That's all I know. So when you are dealing with friends who don't have children, but they're interested in having children, and they're like the whole thing with the village, what advice would you give them on what they need to do to prepare themselves to be the parent that they want to be? Or is there a way that you can prepare yourself? Because, a lot of us, we tend to use whatever tools was used on us, whether good or bad, when it comes to raising the offspring that we ultimately have.
So, shout out to my boy, Shaheem Holloway, right? And I'm going to steal something Shaheem said. I watched him on another podcast of a friend of ours. But Shah comes from Queens. If you guys don't know who Shah is, he was a basketball player, MVP of the McDonald's All-American game in 1996 with Kobe, right? I mean, he was the dude. Shah got hurt. But Shah said something yesterday about having a child while he was in college. And he was like, yo, they don't give you a manual for this, right? So like any advice that I would give to a friend is be prepared for the unexpected, because they don't give you manual. There's no training for this, right? I have 4 children. Each of them are so uniquely different. The 3 youngest, ironically, my middle child lives in Canada.
Okay.
She is the spitting image of my son, who's the second oldest, in mannerisms. Like, they were apart, whatever. They eat the same foods. You would think that they were raised in the same house, and their birthday is a day apart, right?
Oh, wow.
And then I have and like a day apart many, many years later. But and then I have my 5-year-old, who is the exact image of her brothers and sisters in mannerisms, but only in a copy them sense of the word as being the baby.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, they're all different. So I don't really, there's no real advice. Like, I remember before my daughter was born, my oldest, I was nervous, and she was never allowed to go to bed dirty, and everything. She had clean pajamas every night, and her hair brushed 100 times. By the time I got to the second one, it was like, his pajamas got ketchup on them. Yeah, I go to sleep. By the time I got to the third and fourth, it's like, what, she wants to sleep in the clothes she played out in the dirt in all day? Get in the bed, baby. Go to sleep. So it shifts, right? We shift our thought when it comes to our children. And they're all so different, man. And they're all such honestly, and I'm not just saying this, this sounds so cliche, they're all such a gift from God. Like, and my youngest is really the lifesaver, right? Because she came to me after I did a short prison bid. Her mom and I got together, we got married, and we had the baby, and she's the one that obviously too is the most persnickety, right? Precocious. So she'll test me, but she's taught me so much. about being a dad in the home. My first daughter, I was playing pro football. My son, I was chasing a career. My other daughter lived in Canada. So this one is like, I'm like girl dad with, but yeah, man, like that's such an interesting topic too about this. Are we part of the village? Right. I love this topic. When I think about it, we were raised as part of the village, and I don't know, where your backgrounds had you, but in our culture, in the Black family, and in our Black neighborhoods, we were looked out after by folks in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
I was taken out of a neighborhood and brought upstate New York, where we were like one of the first Black families, and believe it or not, it was the same thing. Like, you talk about cultural shock. But it was the same thing. Like, the white parents, my friends' parents would never let us get caught up in nothing, just like my mom wouldn't let them get caught up in nothing. But now, and today, I don't know if we're so much of a village as if we're part of an ecosystem or something more distant than a village, right? Maybe we're a borough instead of a village, right? We kind of spread out a little. Like, we've moved away from protecting our children and raising children.
Right. Yeah. And it's very interesting how you mention it, where, a lot of the times we feel like other races cannot relate to the way that we were brought up. The music, the food, the clothing, just the, activities, when in actuality, they had their own thing going on. And then that was the way that they were brought up. But it doesn't mean that they cannot resonate with us, because they can. So the interesting thing, and the question that I have for you, is that we see it a lot, almost all the time in the news and in the media, the absence of the father when it comes to raising children, and how important it is for that man to be in the household, especially with young boys. But we don't talk about the absence of the mother in the households, and how it will affect not just the boys, but the girls. So my question to you is, how do you think the absence of a mother plays a role in the upbringing of a male or female child, emotionally, mentally, and even physically?
That's so deep, because I was raised by women. So I had the other, right? My dad wasn't in the picture. But when I think about women, and I'm blessed. I have children with women that are the consummate mothers, right? Mothers first. And I think about that effect if they weren't there, how my children would be, how they would perceive situations like love, like adversity, right? Because I always say, you want to watch magic. Watch a woman overcome adversity, right? Like, and that's being raised by a mother, right? I mean, it's all of us overcoming adversity, but when you think about that question, there's a profound effect on the absence of either parent, but I think the mother more so, because there's a natural bond that a mother and a child have, just because they were one for 9 months, whatever the term of the pregnancy was. And I think that there is some instinctual things that a mother passes on to a baby postpartum, that child becomes part of the fabric of who they are. And I think when that's removed for one cause or another, that child, a part of that child's fabric is removed. So now, you may have like a segregated part of a child, right? Or like a missing piece. And it saddens me, because it's very prevalent in our community. It's more spoke about in the Black community, right? This is a real show, so I'm going to keep it real.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll be quick to point out absentee fathers and crackhead mamas in the Black community, and in the Hispanic community, but when it's in the white community, it was, you know, looked on differently. Like she had an issue, right? There's an excuse for the reason why, right? When in all actuality, the effect is the same. The cause might not be the same in their mind, but the effect is definitely the same, right? So like my mom, God bless her, Bree, I'm so glad we're having this conversation tonight. You guys don't even know what you just touched on. Like this is like therapy.
Right. That's what I'm here
for. Shout out to my frat brother Scooby Doo for putting this together, man.
Definitely.
You know, this is the first anniversary of my mother's death is this Saturday.
Okay.
And my mother dedicated her life to raising young women. My mother had a baby at the age of 16 and raised me, my brother and sister. But my mother also devoted her life to running a respite program that worked in family court with getting mothers reunited with children. Just like you said. So this is like dope. This is like so kismic that it came out this way, right? And I'm trying not to get emotional because I don't have any tissues in here. But the truth of the matter is the reason why that question resonates, and I don't want to harp on this, but the reason why that question resonates is because I watched my mother put women back in the homes, or children back in the homes with women, and wrote this respite program. And then she went to work at the YWCA after she got out of family court running the respite nursery program to make sure that she could educate and be an example of those women that were missing from these children. And I never, until you asked me that question, I never thought of my mother's career in that light. I always thought of it in another light, right? And I think Bree and Alan, you guys brought this to light tonight because that's real, right? And this is something that we're faced with every day. It may be grandma, nana, auntie, cousin, sister raising that child, but it's very different than birth mother. And whatever the circumstances are, those roles are heavy, right? And there is definitely a difference the way a mother nurtures, a mother figure even, right? Let's just take the birth mother, but the mother figure nurtures the children versus the way a father nurtured the children, right? And it's a different balance. And again, like I said, I'm God awfully blessed to have women in my life that raise children that way.
Yeah. Wow. Listen, the universe. And the thing was, I was stuck on which question to ask, but just listening to you and then, talking about the comparison between, how when you were growing up and, the white families, how they looked after the children just as the Black families did. It was just like, that's true. And what is it that we're not talking about? And that was the first thing that came to mind, is the absence of mothers. I never seen such a pandemic, almost, you can say, until I moved to Georgia. To me, it's mind-boggling to meet a man who has full custody of his children, and the mom's not in the picture. It's like, wait, what? That is unheard of. But in the South, that's all I come across, and it's just like, wow. So
Alan, are you in the South or in the North?
I'm in the South. I'm in Orlando. And the funny thing is, ironically, I think I know about like 20, 25 brothers who have full custody of their kids.
And it's unheard of up here in New York,
yes,
in the Northeast, right? But the first thing I always say, and this is really judgmental, and I'm going to stop this, but I used to be like, something really got to be wrong with a mother to lose custody of her children.
You're not the only one, though. You're not the only one on that.
Not at all.
You're not the only one.
But really, we don't know the circumstances that people are going through, right? And in embodying the eventual spirit of my mother saw through all that shit. My mom was like, it don't matter why she lost her children. I'm going to figure out how to put them back together in a constructive way. Right. So, that's a deep question, Bree. Woo!
It is.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, and shout out to your mom. May she rest in peace. It takes. Your mother literally was the village. She was
basically.
Like, she helped to rekindle these relationships, and there's so many, I'm sure, grown women and grown men now who were able to be reunited with their mother because of her. I mean, listen, I'm sure they're thanking her and they're thanking you for even putting that out there, because a lot of times we don't get the flowers and the kudos and the applause that we should get when we're alive, and it's always afterwards. So kudos to her for even doing
that part.
So, because I'm not about to cry these lashes off, we're gonna switch the topic. We're gonna switch the topic to social influences. And Alan, I'll let you kick this one off.
All right, social influence. Well, we know how social media has definitely taken over when it comes to what is the standard when it comes to attire, music, how you carry yourself, relationships, all of that. Now, Ruben, being the fact that you are a father of 4 children, how has social media affected the way you handle or interact with your kids? Do you think social media plays a part in that, or do you totally I don't need it, it's whatever? Or do you find yourself sometimes implementing stuff you see on social media, whether good, bad, or in between, when it comes to interacting with not just your kids, but your family as a whole?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this house, I have a 5-year-old that knows all the TikTok dances. Listen, man, I got an 18-year-old, 19-year-old son that plays college football. You want to talk about social influence?
Ooh,
influencer, right? We have a house. My 12-year-old daughter in Canada is a social influencer, right? I didn't know what that was. And I was like, well, what is this? All this TikTok and all this? But I find myself looking at those trends to try and relate to them, because again, I'm 49. We didn't have social media. There was no TikTok. You wanted to learn the hottest new dances, it was Yo MTV Raps. Well, first it was Soul Train or American Bandstand, depending on which side of the spectrum you're on, right? And then it was like Yo MTV Raps. Remember Club MTV with Downtown Julie Brown, right?
Yes.
And Marcus with the hair, right? Shout out to Marcus. Marcus is a local cat. But we had to watch that stuff and emulate it, right? So even now, I'll say things like, well, how did she learn that? And it'll be, oh, well, she learned it from TikTok, or she learned it, and she knows it all. She knows all the lingo. I'm not even up on the lingo. Like, my son said to me one day, "Oh, Dad, that's cap." And I said, "What?"
Oh no!
I said, "What is that? Like, what did you say?" And he said, "No, that's cap." And I was like,
"Oh God!
All right, cool." So I started running around saying, "Oh, that's cap."
Oh
no! My friends were like, "Yo, what are you saying?" And I said, "I don't know. My son says it." So I thought it was. I was cool. They were like, "Nah. Old man, stay in your lane, right? Again, stay in your lane so you don't get run over."
Lane, yeah.
So, relating to the children, yes. Relating to others through social media, no. But I do watch and follow social media on a couple fronts. In the business world, I watch. I'm considered kind of an influencer in my industry. So, again, the word influencer is very subjective.
Yeah.
So when we talk about for children, yeah, that's kind of cool. For my son in college as an influencer, my son's an NIL athlete, right? So name, image, and likeness athlete who gets paid to wear gloves. He gets paid to wear a T-shirt. We're building his brand and his network and strengthening his net worth. So that's all social media, right? That's all done through social media in the eyes of others. But I think that we put up too much stock into social influence as well. And I'll give you an example. There are things that are detrimental to society that go through the world of social media, and those things are like, politics, right? People making political opinion based on things that they read on Twitter, or picking a stance on things that they've seen on Facebook. And I think that social media has shrunk the world in a way that it made us all feel comfortable being uncomfortable.
Right.
Things that used to shock us no longer shock us. Again, going back to the political spectrum, social media, we grew up, I didn't know if my mother was a Democrat or a Republican. And when she came home from the polls, we didn't speak about it.
Right.
We were told we wouldn't talk about it. But now on social media, if you don't have a donkey or elephant behind you, so we've gotten it so blurred and twisted that we allow social influence to affect society negatively. Whereas now, when we look at social influence, look at yourself, Bree, right? I've been following your show, but following you specifically for a year now. Right. This took a year for us to get this on because of COVID and this and that. But I think about the positive influences that we can have through those. But again, it's very subjective in how we view it and where we're viewing it from. And it also depends on what time of day and the lens. If you catch me at 5:30 in the morning with some bullshit, I'm gonna let you have it. You might get me later in the day, after or whatever. I might view it differently. But yeah, man, that is a real question, right? And something that we as society, we as adults now need to take ownership of. We try to limit the amount of time my daughter has that blue screen in her face. Well, I also don't want to stifle her creativity, because we know that these kids are getting very creative off of it, right? And there's money to be made if that's the route. But there's also educations to learn, and there are some valuable lessons, like, oh no, you won't be shaking your ass like that. My 5-year-old had a thing about twerking and Megan Thee Stallion. Right? And the time I saw her drop down and put her feet on the wall, I was like, that's it for TikTok for as long as we could remember.
I'm not mad at you though. I'm not mad at you with that.
She just got it, but she didn't know what she was doing, right? Because she was emulating that influencer. Now, again, some of these social media influencers should also have a tone of responsibility to send the correct message too, especially to our young folks.
Yes, I agree 1,000%. Ooh, he said twerking. Listen, nowadays it's like if you can twerk and show your butt at the same time, you are automatically an influencer. Like
you're a millionaire.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Some of these folks are making millions. So here's one for you. I was reading on the plane last week an article. A husband and wife made $13 million in 6 months on OnlyFans.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Yep.
13 million. And I ain't gonna lie to you.
I ain't gonna lie, Ruben. Sometimes, Ruben, I'm like this close, my brother.
Listen, if the application process was not so long and detailed, I done went as far as submitting my driver's license. I said, in the name of he said what network? Listen, we got to make something shake. Yes.
we got to get it popping. Oh man.
But what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take a quick commercial break, and then when we return, and it's so hard for me to take a break because I really didn't even want to stop the conversation, but we need to. When we return, we will kick off where we left off. So you guys are tuned into He Said What with your girl Simply Bring
and your boy Alan.
And soon. Of course, our guest Ruben Lindo. We'll be right back.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl P with P's Intuition here on the He Said What Network. Join me each and every Sunday at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time for your spiritual guidance, spiritual clarity, and intuitive oracle reading. All right, see y'all. Peace.
Yeah. All right, we are back. You guys are tuned into He Said What? With your girl Simply Green.
And your boy Alan M. Newman Jr. and our amazing guest, Mr. Ruben Lindo. It has been a pleasure and an honor having you on here. The past two topics have been amazing. But for a lot of y'all, we're about to go into a topic that's going to spear off into what Ruben does on the business aspect. And of course, we are going to talk about being Black in corporate America. Now, I know for me, I'm currently in corporate America as we speak. Bree is still in corporate America as well. Ruben, I'm not sure. I do know you have your business on the side, but I'm pretty sure you are familiar with the corporate sector, even as an athlete. Matter of fact, I'm going to spill a little tea on Mr. Ruben for those who are tuning in now and listening later. He did play for the Denver Broncos, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, and the New York Jets. So even though he was an athlete, everyone knows how the business side of the NFL is run because of how open they are. So this is a unique conversation to have for someone who firsthand dealt with it. So when it comes to being Black in corporate America, Ruben, how would you have said from first entering that sector to where you are now, where did it take you to evolve as a businessman? And did you feel like you had areas where you was hit with roadblocks that you had to overcome, being that you were not just a man, but a Black man in corporate America?
Yeah, for sure. And, shout out to the NFL for raising a soldier, right? I was cut from more teams than I made and beat up more than I would like to admit. However, the truth of the matter is I used that experience to catapult myself into business, right? And I always tell people I left the playing field and entered the boardroom, but I really didn't go straight to the boardroom. A lot of people don't notice I worked on a call help desk, right, for a stock company, for a stock exchange, and then I got into corporate America because I always thought that I geared myself for that. When I was a kid, I had an office set up in my house and my bedroom, and I played office, right? And I played office, but what I didn't know was that I wasn't going to be able to play office in the corporate world. I had to play politics to get through in the corporate world. I always like to remind people, when you're a Black man in corporate America, now it's a little different, right, with D&I and all that. But like, if we go back to like, when I started in corporate America in 2004, right, I was injured. I had to like really show and prove, right? I had to show up every day. I had to dress a certain way. I had to carry myself a certain way. I had to tone down and be almost demure in character, right? So that I didn't offend anyone. Those of you who don't know, I'm a bigger guy, right? So, at 230 pounds, 0 to 2% body fat when I came out of the league, people would look at you like, they knew I was a ball player, but like they treated us differently, right? We were existential threat to the status quo in corporate America, and we still are, right? Mm-hmm. But when you take a step back and you start to realize those who came before you, that the path was there. We just had to not necessarily walk the same path. We just had to keep one foot on that path, right? And really study it. I had a business mentor when I came into corporate America, a brother named James Blocker, right? God rest his soul. But James said to me one day, he pulled me in the boardroom and he was like, one of two things is going to happen. You're either going to get this shit or you're not. Right? And I wasn't militant in thought or any of that. I was in a biracial marriage. I had all these other things going on. And I never understood that until I was really into it. And then when I was named global director of infrastructure technology for Epsilon, and we were acquired by Google, that's when I really knew. When I would go to these meetings, and I was the guy, and I had all eyes on me constantly. I couldn't mess up. I couldn't make the same mistakes that my counterparts in the other parts of the company were making, because I was held to a higher standard unjustly, right? Because I was a black man. Now let's put another wrinkle on it. I go away to prison in 2014. I come home in 2014, and imagine what it's like trying to be in corporate America as a convicted felon.
Oh no!
Right? So it was hard, right? I couldn't get jobs. I couldn't do things, and I was more qualified than most of the people who were getting these jobs. I applied for 5,000 jobs all over the Northeast in 1 year. I got one warm maybe and 4,800 no's. Like no exaggeration. I have a book that I kept every single job in there, every response, every email, thousands of pages of stuff printed out. And I did that to remind myself of two things. One, don't go too far off the path, and remain true to me, right? Don't let that deter me from being the leader I am in the industry that I'm in now, right? Like, without segueing, but like, truthfully, I was the first African American CEO of a major cannabis corporation as a convicted felon, right? So now I'm running someone else's company in the most regulated industry in the world and the fastest growing business segment, and no one in the room looked like me.
Right.
Going back to what James Blocker said, you're either gonna figure it out or you ain't.
Right.
And I figured it out. But what I figured out was I didn't want to be the Jackie Robinson.
Right.
Right. That's a responsibility unto itself. I just wanted to be the role model for young black folks and young black men and women to look at and say, if he can do it with that on his back, I can do it without that on my
back. Right.
You know?
Yeah, that I definitely commend you on that, because you see a lot of people who come from the system, from the prison system, with a record, and they can't get a corporate job. You know, they're automatically looked at like, you know, some type of failure, or just it can't be trustworthy, whatever the excuse is that's provided. Even though we all know when it comes to another race who has a record, that, oh, they just made a mistake. They just made a mistake. It's okay.
I mean, if Bree, not to cut you off, but if you knew, like, I'm going to share with you, I went to prison for a $5,000 bounce check, my own check. I bounced a check, right? At the same time that I was going through my case, there was a guy, I knew him very well, who was bouncing $50,000 worth of stolen checks, right? So I'm going to tell you the difference. One of us got 2 to 4 years in state prison. The other one got, don't make that mistake again.
Well, apparently yours was not, don't make that mistake again.
Correct, right? But you know what? Shout out to that too, because that really made me who I am in business and in life, right? I operate 100% transparency. I try to keep integrity first in all things that I do, especially when it comes to business, more so when it comes to business. And I am a strong believer of that happened because they needed me in the industry that I'm in. God set that up because he needed me to be this leader in the space that I'm in.
Now let's talk about this space right here. Speaking of space, shout out to the high that you get when you intake and indulge in cannabis. Okay? Shout out to that space. Okay? Let's talk about Phoenix Nutraceutical. Okay? Because it's interesting for you to have a record yet have a business, a company around cannabis. Because usually they say, oh, well, it's a drug and you're not supposed to, you know, intake, or there's so many different stipulations when it comes to the marijuana and cannabis. So first of all, I am new. I'm very green to all of this stuff. So for those of us who are out there, what is there a difference between marijuana and cannabis?
Yes.
Oh, and what is it?
Oh,
look at Alan too. Look.
You ready for this?
Yeah.
The word marijuana is inherently racist, and we should never refer to the plant as marijuana. Marijuana was created in 1937 to scare white people from black people and Hispanic people. It was a term given to folks by former drug czar Harry Asinger, who wanted to prosecute and criminalize the plant. So there's your answer. Is there a difference? Cannabis and hemp are the same plant too. Don't let me fool you. But one has psychoactivity, the other does not. Okay. I know I just blew your mind when I said there is a difference, right?
Y'all see my face, right?
Yeah. Look, I told you guys when maybe we were backstage, I said there's a reason why I consider myself the Fred Hampton of this shit, because I'm going to give people what they came for, right? I'm going to give you a little bit of history about the cannabis space right now. Give me about 30 seconds to indulge you guys, right? In 1936, Harry Asinger, who was part of J. Edgar Hoover's administration and law enforcement, was tasked with two things: to infiltrate and disseminate the code between black and white people, and to also round up all of the black people and put them in jail, and by any means necessary. So the first thing they did was they created a propaganda campaign, and they used cannabis, and they gave it this scary term named marijuana, right? So when they called it marijuana, right, that sounded nefarious and scary. They created an entire campaign around what we call now as the war on drugs, started in 1936, right? So giving you that piece of history lets you know that J. Edgar Hoover was just trying to really break up and dismantle the black family. They were not successful. So they went to the next realm, and they started going after our artists and our musicians, black artists and black musicians. Look no further than 1956 with the United States versus Billie Holiday, right? Judy Garland was the biggest heroin addict known to Hollywood. People don't know this. Judy Garland, right? Judy Garland was the biggest heroin addict in Hollywood. Judy Garland got to go to the MGM home in Palm Springs. Billie Holiday got chained to a bed in a hospital, arrested multiple times for her addiction. So they criminalized black people, and that's where it started, right? And then when we fast forward to 1978, 1980, they were looking at other ways because they failed to dismantle the black family after they broke up civil rights. Right? They figured we got to come up with a better way. 1980, what was introduced in 1980s? Welfare and crack cocaine. So they used the crack cocaine to take the men out of the house. They hooked the mothers on crack cocaine, took the babies, put the babies on welfare. Now you have a system of dependency.
Right.
So when we talk about the war on drugs, let's not make any mistake that this was a direct assault on the black and brown community. There was no war on drugs in the white community until Nancy Reagan stood on TV and said, just say no. But what Nancy Reagan was saying, just say no to, was behind closed doors. Her husband and Oliver North were trading guns for cocaine to get guns into Nicaragua, to the Iran-Contra, and through Iran, through Oliver North. And my man Freeway Rick Ross in LA was the direct recipient of that cocaine, trafficking cocaine. Where did they want that cocaine to come? To the black community.
Right, yeah.
The price of crack cocaine was such that it forced our people to participate. because it was a glamour drug that we couldn't afford.
Right.
Okay. Now, fast forward to the 90s, we had 1 in 4 black men in America was incarcerated. Right. 2 out of 5 black men were under some sort of control between 1996 and 2015 on some type of institutionalized paper. So when we talk about the war on drugs, when we talk about cannabis, I just want to give people this history before we get into what I do, because now you'll understand why I do what I do.
Right.
In 2005, 1 in 4 young men under the age of 21 either was incarcerated or had a chance to be in jail. Right? Has been in jail. That's a lifelong sentence. So when we talk about the war on drugs, and we talk about this, the Afghan war. Last year they were saying, "Oh, the Afghan war, the longest war in United States history." So the war on drugs, the war against black people, has been the longest war in America's history, and it's ongoing.
Right.
Right. So I want to just give that little bit. Thank you for allowing me to indulge. It was more than 30 seconds.
No, again, thank you.
I want to give the people who are listening the understanding, and like now when they hear why I'm in this industry, that just set the tone. I came home from prison, right? I saw these young men. I saw some talented brothers sitting behind bars for things like having an ounce of weed, right? Or getting pulled over, and the smell of marijuana was the precipitating fact of why they were stopped, and their car was searched, and they found a handgun, although they didn't have a handgun to commit a crime.
Go for it to begin with.
Life over, right? So I just want people to understand, like, what I'm sharing with you and what I'm giving to you. That's all real, right? And you can follow me on social media, and I'll make sure that everybody knows where to find this information, Bree, because and Alan, like the truth of the matter is, man, we were set up to fail.
Right.
But I got into this industry to prosper. So go ahead, let's get to the next question. I'm done punching.
Man, listen. Woo! Alan, this on you, Alan. Like,
man, I'm over here writing down information.
I was too. I said Billie Holiday.
Woo! Man. All right. So, yeah, we are talking about being black in corporate America, but like I said,
no, we done moved into the cannabis.
Yeah, we
awareness.
wanted this to spearhead into what Ruben is doing, that is not only changing the course for black people, but impacting. So, Ruben, with you, unlike Bree, I am not that guy when it comes to cannabis. I don't know the first thing, so I can't direct anybody where they need to go. So I wanted to actually spend this time for you to expound on your business, in the cannabis business, and what you are doing and how we can actually get more information. Because, like I said, the info you just gave, that little bit was a whole bombshell, because you hear about the war on drugs, but you don't hear people go into details about it the way you did in the breakdown. So with that happening, one thing I have noticed, which you can let me know if this is true, a lot of black men and women, when they have been incarcerated, they end up being the biggest entrepreneurs when they come out, because of, if you have a felony, it is hard to actually get into the corporate sector. So you have to figure out a way that you can make ends meet for you and yours. So when you took that step, what led you to take the part in the cannabis industry with it?
So, I was fortunate. I was very blessed to have 2 gentlemen that really believed in who I was, that gave me a shot. But I took that shot and ran with it. Not only do I have 3 cannabis companies. I have 3 very successful cannabis companies. I have a CBD company, nutraceutical company, Bree, that you're familiar with. Alan, you're familiar with. You mentioned it, Phoenix Nutraceutical, right? So for me to step out and be an entrepreneur and be embraced by this industry, I saw 2 things that were missing. I saw that there were adults in the room that had corporate America understanding with the street smarts, right? Look, I've always dabbled in. I didn't always consume interesting fun fact: the first time I ever smoked a joint was with Mike Tyson in 2017.
Wow.
Right?
Oh wow.
I was in the industry for 2 years before I even consumed. 2018, I smoked with Mike. Excuse me, and I never, but I was always involved, right? I was always hustling. I had links and connects and moved this for this one and moved that for that one. With family from the Bronx and Washington Heights and Brooklyn, like it was just a part of our culture, but it was also a part of our economic subsystem, right? So how we were able to survive. So when I looked at this industry, I said, if I could bring my NYU MBA and my Fordham Road education to an industry, how could I shape and change this industry? Right. Well, one is I can speak to the guys on the street who are looking to get into it, but I can also sit in a boardroom and break down cost-based structure and financial models to the Wall Street guys, right? But the Wall Street guys couldn't always communicate back to the streets. So I could bridge that gap. And I was like, all right, well, let me figure this out. And then I just got really hip to it. And I said, look, I want to give everybody an opportunity. I'm going to start a company called Blackmar Farms. I'm going to allow my friends and family to invest for no money, very little money, and come in and participate in this thing they call the Green Rush. And we partnered with a company in Michigan, and we did our thing. And now we're blowing up. We've expanded. Blackmar Farms is in South Africa now. First Black-owned cannabis company in South Africa. Partnered with a South African Black businessman. We are looking to go to Panama. But even bigger than that, right here in the United States, we're doing 2 acquisitions in the next 60 days in the state of Massachusetts. And then we're going to come to New York, right? But the reason why I did that isn't because I want to blow up and I want to make a ton of money, right? I'm a firm believer of equitable distribution of the wealth, right? And not in an Idi Amin way, right? That's more history. Not in an Idi Amin way, or not in a Gaddafi way, but in a real true sense of the word, in a Christian sense of the word, of servant leadership, right? Teaching my people how to become successful on any measure of success that they view is really what the industry has called them to, right? And not just the industry, society, because there's more than just touching plants and cannabis, right? There's for every job in mainstream America, that job exists in cannabis without touching a plant, right? So I wanted to teach people and give them access to this information, because just because we have access doesn't always mean it's accessible to Black people, right? I'm going to say that again. Just because we have access doesn't always mean it's accessible to the Black community. Yeah. So when I got into this industry, I took a shot at that. And then I created a holding company called Equator Holding. Why did I call it Equator? And it's EQ, the number 8, TOR Holding, right? The reason why is because there's 8 dimensions, 8 realms of dimension in the universe, right? People say 7, but there's really the 8th because it's the now, right? But the other thing, the equator, is the closer our people get to the sun, the more successful, the more we thrive. Outside of this country, the closer we are to the equator, the more successful we are. Look at our Egyptian roots. Look at our African roots. Okay. Look at our Hispanic Panamanian roots. Right. The closer we are, the more we thrive. So I created that company, and then I have the brand underneath that company, which is Urban Couture, which is a lifestyle luxury brand. We do apparel. We throw events. We have products. We have very high-end products. We consider ourselves the luxury side of cannabis, right? And everything that we do is at an upper level, right? Upper echelon level. Not because we're trying to be elitist, but why not? If it worked for them, if it worked for Louis and it worked for Gucci, it should work for me.
Right.
So that's what I do from a social equity standpoint in this industry. I'm a fierce defender and fighter for social equity. For those of you who don't know what social equity is, it is giving equal opportunity to those who have less to start with, but want to end up at the same place, right? And this weekend at Medgar Evers College, somebody said to me, Ruben, what does social equity look like to you? And I said, Black and brown people in the cannabis industry first. Right?
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
this industry is not a reparation.
Right.
And anybody who can hear my voice, let this resonate with you. If you're coming into the cannabis industry, this is not your reparation. This is not your 40 acres and a mule. This is a restoration, because they stole this industry from us and then they put it on our backs. And then we serve this industry under the threat of loss of life and liberty. This is a restoration industry. And this is the first time in our lives that we'll ever be able to participate in an industry from its inception through on, right? We weren't able to get into the .coms.
Right.
How many brothers and sisters own .coms, right? Like let's keep it real, right? How many of us got into the housing boom and was able to buy up real estate, right? How many of us, our grandparents were involved in prohibition? We might have owned liquor stores and bars. We weren't participating at the highest level of that. We were participating at the retail end of it, right? Which is the toughest end of the business chain. So look, that's me. You can find me at Ruben J Lindo on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter, RunFast19. You can find me on Instagram. I think it's Ruben J Lindo on Instagram as well. You can follow my brand Urban Couture on the gram as well. You can find me. You can find my brands. But you know, that's who I am. That's why I fight so fiercely for us to have a seat at the table, right? But I just came up with something. I'm done with saying, can we have a seat at your table? We're building our own table.
Right.
I'm not talking about in a segregationist or colonist way. I'm talking about we're going to build our own table within the ecosystem of this economy, and we're going to make sure that we all eat equally with the Brads and Chads and the Jamals and the Lizettes and the Jorges and the Lupitas. We're all going to sit down and eat, right? Because we have to learn how to get together as society. Right. And I use the term Brad and Chad, and people are always like, oh, you said Brad and Chad. No. But we need each other.
Right.
If this pandemic didn't teach us nothing, there is no such thing as black and white when it comes to health and death.
Right.
And we all got to get together and come together. But again, I'm all about, again, like God bless Fred Hampton said, we have to take care of our own plight. We have to be first, right? So that's why I do what I do. And look, man, this is an honor. I'm so grateful that you guys allowed me to go into that tonight with you. You know, out of all the podcasts that I've done, I'll tell you, I think it was my nerves, Bree, because the build-up, and you know, look, Scooby, yo, when you gonna get on Bree's show? Yo, like, you know, Scooby was on it. Right. And today I said to my assistant, I was like, oh, I'm nervous. Like, I don't get nervous. I'm gonna be listen, how crazy is this? I'm gonna do a quick minute of bragging.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at the United Nations tomorrow. Like, if you would have told me 8 years ago, 10 years ago, I'm sitting in a prison cell that, yo, in 10 years, you're going to be in the United Nations as a featured guest of the General Assembly, I would have said, you're crazy. Right? And lo and behold, man, here I am. So I was nervous, Bree and Al, like I was nervous and didn't know how this was going to go. This was probably my best podcast interview thus far. You guys made this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Like, it has been an honor having you here. By far, I don't know what topics we'll have to do. We got to have you come back. We got to have you come back.
Yes.
We definitely got to have you come back. I know we'll be doing some panels and stuff this year, so we definitely got to have you come back. Because this information, like I said, I am blown away because you always hear the hearsay and what people want to hear you hear about marijuana. Had no clue about the preface on the word marijuana. I always, no lie, 37 years of age, always thought marijuana was just the name that it was. That's what it was. When I first started hearing about cannabis, I was like, okay, who decided to put some white name on marijuana to see if they can get other people to get it? That's literally what I thought when I first started hearing the word cannabis come out there. I'm like, oh, they trying to make it sound a little, they're trying to pretty it up for everyone else to get to it. Having no clue how they have villainized this plant to make it into something that it is not. Like, it's wild. This was Bree. I don't know like so many notes. Listen. I don't follow him. For those who are listening and tuning in right now and listening later, I've just followed both his pages on Instagram. I want to re-listen to this so I can get the other locations he's at so I can listen. I'm definitely wanting to know more information so that we can support you when it comes to merchandise and everything, because I like this. One thing my dad used to teach, rest his soul, before he passed in 2020, he had always said that one day it's going to be the time for Black people to rise up and be the difference in society and in the community. And people don't realize it's these areas where you can start getting that foothold and getting people back into that. Because one thing, my dad, he was a former drug dealer, and he used to talk all the time. He used to say, people think we dumb. He was like, drug dealers be the smartest ones out here. He said, you can't be no idiot trying to sit here and sell stuff on the street. He was like, the way that Black men and women are villainized when they're drug dealers and when they're dealing with stuff like this, and then even with your situation, a bounce check got you put away for 2 years. Not a smack on the wrist, not a you get probation. No, this is, we're putting you in there. Oh, and he's a sportscaster.
Broadcaster? Okay, so we already
connect him with RG. We got to get him with RG and Mike. Yeah. We got to connect them together. Yeah,
I don't do sports broadcasting anymore. I did a short stint with Fox Sports Radio and local sports. But yeah, like, look, my thing, your dad is right. And I just said this the other day to somebody from the governor's office here in New York. I said, look, you know, these people who are selling and running businesses, they're not running little drug businesses. These people are running sophisticated empires, right? And I'm not talking about their trap kings and all that, because all that shit, like, people get that twisted, right? I'm talking about these people are running sophisticated businesses. The only thing is they're just not paying taxes, but they're running Fortune 500 level companies, right? They have hierarchy, organization structure. Like your dad, my dad was a hustler too. My dad, God rest his soul, died back in '97. But my father was, part of Frank Lucas's Down South Boys crew, right? My dad was a Jersey guy. My dad was a Harlem guy, but my dad ended up taking the business to Jersey. But my dad got smart, right? My dad hustled heroin for 25 years and never saw the inside of a jail cell, back of a police car, or a pair of handcuffs. I bounce a check and my dumb ass goes to jail.
You get all of it. Throw away the key, everything.
Right. But the fact of the matter is your dad was right, man. Your dad was right. They'd be the smartest out there, right? Not only do they have to understand math, go to somebody and say, yo, break down an eighth for me. I'll be like, what? How many grams in the eighth? I mean, that's math. Do it. Right? And then you got to put a price to the shit. That's a whole nother topic. But hey, man, listen, I know we had an hour. I don't want to. I'm honored. I'll come back whenever you guys want me to come back. On the flip side of that, I'm also starting my podcast. It's going to be called From the Corner to the CEO's Corner. And we're in the process of putting the whole show together right now. And I would love to have you guys come on my show and we just chop it up, right? My show is a little less formal. Will be a little less formal. It'll just be conversations, right? And we'll talk about all the crazy stuff that you guys talk about. God, look, my guy Matt Barnes. I was talking about doing something like All the Smoke 3 years ago, and now Matt's doing it, right? God bless him. I was around Mike with the hot boxing, so I know what I want, right? And I'm gonna be like, we're out on the corner. Scooby will tell you, from upstate New York, you shooting dice in the basement, right? we're drinking. I even have I have the family down there shooting dice. Everybody dice, right?
Snake eyes.
That's our thing, right? That's just how we are up here, and that's what we do. But look, I'll be honored, and then I'd love to have you both fly in and come and celebrate with us at our annual event. So let's try and figure that out. I'm inviting my friends to come to upstate New York. We put on a hell of an event every year. Urban Couture. This year, it's going to be the influence of cannabis and how cannabis influences the theme. And we got some great things in store for everybody. So I'm excited.
Oh. I was not expecting none of this when I woke up this morning.
And Bree, you got a sweatshirt already.
I do. I got a hoodie.
I'm gonna get.
Oh, he got hoodies. Oh, he got hoodies.
I'm gonna get you a hoodie. Just make sure I have your address, and I'll ship you a hoodie. You want black or white?
Black.
Okay, you got one coming. What size, bro? Just put it in
extra me, please.
Don't out yourself. Just put it in email.
I'm cool. 2X is perfectly fine.
I said, don't out yourself. Oh my gosh, Ruben!
I will definitely pass that information to Bree so she can get it over to you.
And I'll send it over to your assistant.
When I woke up this morning, this is not how I thought this show was going to go. Like, I knew it was going to be good, but I was not expecting these kind of gems and jewels to be dropped. So I'm at a loss for words. Bree, you can take over because I'm done.
Man,
I'm done. I'm done for the day. Ruben that got me today.
Yes, Ruben, listen. Shout out to Ray Diamond, aka Scooby.
Thanks, Scoob.
All up because he has just you don't know what you did. Like this is our first episode after returning from a 1-month vacation. And the bar is just at the top. So,
yes.
I mean, anybody else that plans to come on, unless you come with this type of energy,
need not apply
at all. Like, Ruben, I am beyond anything that words could ever describe. Like, I'm excited. I'm ecstatic for you. I have so many questions for you. So many questions. Like, even down to, your intentions, your plans when it comes to passing your business on to your children, and how do you educate them on entrepreneurship? Like, there's so many questions.
Yes.
We definitely. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Definitely a part 2. I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to be up here with us, to bless us, to just open up the doors and educate us. Like, you dropped those gems, like Alan said. We both were sitting here making notes. Like, wait, what? Huh? And we're going to pass that information on to everyone else. Those who are listening, those who are watching, please make sure that you guys reach out to Ruben Lindo. Listen, Ruben J. Lindo on Instagram. Check out his website. Check out his businesses. Like, he has so much going on. And, what they say, each one teach one? Mm-hmm. Like, that's it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. We're going to keep you right here, Ruben. If you have any special shout-outs that you want to give to anyone, we'll go ahead and let you go first, and then we'll go ahead and close the show.
Let me just shout out my assistant Nadine too, because she went to work on this. Shout out to Bree and Alan for having me on today. Look, CEO is not just a title for me. It is who I am, and it stands for control every outcome, reach, teach, and lead so that none are left behind. Peace.
Oh my goodness gracious, you guys. Alan,
I'm back again. I truly have no words at all. But of course, you guys who know me here on the He Said What Network, on Instagram, I am Newman_Jr. _2.0. For those who know me, know I advocate for not just Black men and women in general, but I definitely have a special part in my heart to advocate for Black women. Bree and the family has a joke that I'm called the Cocoa Puff Whisperer because of my advocacy for Black women. I just want everybody to tune in. We're excited. That's all I can say. The way tonight has went, I'm excited to see what we are going to do every week for you guys. Please don't miss next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but also keep an ear out because we will have Ruben back. Will have Ruben back because God, this man had dropped a lot of knowledge tonight. But like I said, you can follow me on Instagram at Newman_Junior_2.0. And that's all I got, Bree, because I am full.
Listen, if you watch this show, guys, if you watch this live, you need to go ahead and roll one up and just call it Ruben. Just call it Ruben. Just be like, you know what? I'm kicking it with Ruben tonight. That's it. Just call it Ruben, okay? Once again, shout out to our guest, Ruben, Lindo. Amazing episode tonight. If you would love to follow me, you can just go to Instagram _simplybree_, and it's SIMPLEEBREE. If you are interested in following the network, our IG is He Said What Network. We follow you back. We communicate with you. We post great content. Plus, we have more shows. So He Said What is just a show that comes on towards the end of the week. But Sundays, we have Let's Connect with P's Intuition. That show starts at 11:30 a.m. And she is providing you spiritual guidance through the oracle readings and intuitive readings. So you do not want to miss her. She is spot on, might I add. On Mondays, we have Simply Sports, which we got to get Ruben on that because I know RG and One Mike would have a field day and just chopping it up, of course. So that's on Mondays, 8 until 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tuesdays, we have the Credit Lab podcast with our host. I mess his first name up all the time because I just think that it's Roni, but it's actually Ronnie Francois. And that show kicks off at 6 p.m. until 6:15. He's giving you tidbits on financial awareness as well as credit awareness. So you do not want to miss that. And then you return back on Wednesdays for the He Said What show with myself, Simply Bree, and Alan Newman Jr. And we're not going to forget on Thursdays, we have partnered up with Blue Rain Radio based in New York. So make sure you check them out. www.BLUEREIGNRADIO.com. Make sure you download the app and you can check out the replay of this episode every Thursday from 8 until 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shout out to our viewers. Shout out to our listeners. If you are interested in listening to any of our other past shows, definitely go to HeSaidWhatNetwork.com and check it out. Subscribe so you get notifications anytime we upload more episodes. And with that being said, I wish you guys a wonderful night. Thank you so much for rocking with us. Ruben, thank you for rocking with us. And yeah, you guys have a good night. Bye.
Have a good night, guys.